Welcome once again to the complete free Flutter course presented by yours truly, Ovidius Mazurum. In the last video, we started speaking about stateful versus stateless widgets. And you might have seen that video and thought to yourself, oh great, that's fantastic. So now that we know about states, now that we know about how we can change a widget, how to update a state, we're all good now. That means that we can just complete the entire app using these stateful widgets, and it's just going to be bada bing, bada boom, all finished, perfect. Well, hold your horses, because that's not quite the case. What I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to show one of the big issues with stateful widgets, and especially when you have a larger widget tree. We'll go into what that is in the future. Essentially, in this video, I'm going to present the problem, and it's a problem which has many different solutions, and all these solutions are great, I think, in their own way, but yeah, we'll try to go over as many of them as we can. We won't be able to go over all of them because there are just so many different ways, but we'll go over the main ones definitely. Okay, so that said, let us jump in. So the starting project is exactly where we were last time, and I have my emulator running here. So we can see I have my stopwatch, timer, and my settings. And all of these control a different quote-unquote screen. I say quote-unquote because this is not a real screen. The reason I say it's not a real screen is because currently all it is a widget inside my home screen. Inside my home screen state, to be specific, and I'm only changing this part rather than changing the entire screen. So as you can imagine, as you probably guessed as soon as we did it this way, it's not really the correct way of doing it. What we really should be doing is having a separate scaffold and everything that entails in each of these screens, and that means my bottom navbar is going to be repeated on those different screens, correct? And then we're going to get to a slight issue with my screen index, because currently I have my screen index in my home screen state, and this is passing it down to my bottom navbar. But when I separate the screens into real separate screens, how am I going to do this? And I'm going to show you how we can do it, but also why it's kind of awkward. So the first thing I'm going to do, Control B to open this, and you can see I have the previous video, the code saved separately. So I'm going to Control click on lib, hit new folder, and I'm going to make widgets. The difference between widgets and screens, a screen should be the entire thing here. You'll also sometimes see this folder called views, or sometimes pages. All of them are correct. In Flutter, I've seen people use screens the most often, but if you prefer views, you can use that. Yeah, so I was telling you the difference. And then widgets are smaller components, which are usually repeated. So my bottom navbar, which I'm going to have to use in each of the screens, goes under widgets, not screens. So here, Control click, new file, and I'm going to call this bottom underscore nav underscore bar dot dot. So remember that when we create our file names, the correct way of doing it is all lowercase with underscores between the different words, as opposed to when we create the widget names, we use camel case. That's when you have the capitals, and the widgets will usually by default contain an uppercase first letter, whereas functions or variables generally contain a lowercase first letter. But leaving that aside, so we're going to copy all of this. So that's my bottom navbar plus my bottom navbar state. I'm going to cut it out and put it here in a new file. So that's in the bottom navbar dot dot. IMPM to import material, and that's going to fix a lot of my issues already. I'm going to leave index and callback for now. That's fine. I'm just checking if I forgot to update anything. Yeah, so this one, it's giving me a warning because since this is a function, it should be with a lowercase. However, I created this kind of as a replacement for a widget because I didn't want to turn turn the function into a widget, because it would become much more complicated. But yeah, so as a result, I'm actually going to leave it this way. Okay, so now we're going to go back into our screens, and we're going to ignore the error for now. We're going to have an error for quite a long time. Create new files, specifically stopwatch_screen.dart, and we're also going to create a timer.dart, and that should have been timer screen. So I'm going to right click and rename timer screen.dart, and I'm also going to create a new file, options screen.dart, and for now they're just going to be stand-ins. So I'm starting with my stopwatch screen, impm, then stl, stateless widget, and you guys probably can guess I might have to change this into a stateful widget yet, but I don't want to jump ahead of myself. And this is going to be stopwatch screen. And for now, I'm going to return a scaffold here. And so one thing I didn't mention is, why is it so important for me, especially in this project, to do things the correct way and use the scaffold? Because I could kind of break convention and just do it kind of the wrong way and have these screens as quasi screens, just as components, and switch between them like I was doing before. But one of the big reasons, especially in this project, is I think it would look really nice if we had a reset button right here. I think maybe reset here, maybe pause here, maybe reset here, maybe pause here. I haven't decided yet. But either way, I want to make use of this app bar. And because I want to make use of the app bar, I need the scaffold. And because I need the scaffold, I need to override the bottom nav bar. So that's that. But yeah, so I'm not going to have the app bar for now. For now, I'm just going to have center. And in my center, I'm going to have a child of text. And my text, of course, is going to have stopwatch screen, just so we know where we are. And our style is going to be theme.ofContext.textTheme. And I believe it was headline 1, which I was using. Let me see. Yep, headline 1. So I have this. And then under the body, I'm going to do a bottom navigation bar of bottom navigation bar. That's not correct. Of bottom nav bar. And I'm going to have to auto import this. Then you can see this doesn't look the way I want it to look. So Control-Shift-P to bring up this menu here. And mine's already on the top. If yours isn't, just type in FI, or if it still isn't, type in all of it, fix imports, and our extension will come up. Hit enter, and it's going to format this nicely. Really quick about the imports. So my packages should be on the top, and then my own files, the ones I'm importing from, from over here, should be under that with a space in between. And normally we'd prefer to use a relative import, so it doesn't have the complete path, and also this should be in alphabetical order. A lot to do by myself, but my extension will do it for me. And this obviously is going to give me an error because I don't have all the items I need, and I imported the wrong one actually. So I'm going to control click and import my bottom nav bar here. You guys can actually delete your home screen. We're not going to use it, but I'm not going to do it for now. And now I'm just going to copy paste this into the timer screen and the options screen. Of course, later on we're going to actually make them do different things, but for now we're not. Okay, so now we have our 3 different screens. I don't need to touch them right now, I will later on. So I have my nav bar, that's fine. My home screen is going to need to change. So I'm going to go into my main.dart. So now I no longer want to give my home screen as the home because it's not really doing anything. So instead I'm going to start with my stopwatch screen. And to do this, I'm going to auto import it. See if it got the right one. It did. I'm going to hit fix imports. Fix imports. Yeah, my main file is importing them in a strange way, but that's fine. I'll just leave it. Okay, so that's fine. Okay, so we're going to refresh this. And it broke because I don't have the items I need. I was expecting that actually. So now we need to talk about the state itself. My bottom navbar needs to know the index and needs to know the callback. And I'm actually going to refresh this so it's not, or restart it. It's all going to have the error. I just didn't want it to look like that. I'm going to make this big so we don't have to see the ugly red screen. Okay, so my bottom navbar needs an index and a callback. And where are we going to get these values? Obviously, I need to have some kind of state. Now, we might be tempted to say, well, I already have a stateful widget here. So why don't I just, keep the value of index right here? The problem with that is my bottom navbar is on these different pages, right? So I have a bottom navbar in the timer screen and a bottom navbar in the stopwatch screen, but this is an object. A widget is just an object. So even though they look the same way, actually these two are two separate objects. So the state I have in my stopwatch screen bottom navbar will not be the same as the state I have in my timer screen bottom navbar. So what does that mean? That means that even though I can keep track of the index here, when I move to my next page, it's going to lose the index and it's going to go back to the default index because I would need some kind of starting value. I could start with 0, for example, but then my timer screen should have an index of 1. If I'm on the timer screen, this index needs to be 1, but it's creating a new bottom navbar and that index is going to be 0. Now I could hard code it. I could say index 1 here, but that is so ugly. You shouldn't be hard coding stuff like that. That's not the right way of doing it at all. Obviously, that's not a good thing. So what am I going to do? So I can't keep my state here. I do need to pass it in because if I do keep my state here, it's just going to get overridden when I go to the different page. So it's not going to do anything. So that's not the correct way of doing it. Well, I'll have to move my state up. The same way I had my state in the home screen before, now I can move it up to the stopwatch screen. But again, my stopwatch screen and my timer screen are going to need to have that same state, right? They need to have the same one, not the same values separately. So that means I'm going to have to move up again. I can't have it in these two, so I need to go into their parents, which is main ... Wow. So you can see how this has become problematic already, but let's just go ahead and do it this way because it's the way we have to. I'm going to control click here, convert to stateful widget, and my stateful widget in my app is going to have the same thing that my home screen used to have. So I'm going to put them side by side. I used to have my int screen index equals 0, and I also needed a callback set index. So I'll have int screen index equals 0. That's going to be the default, and I'm putting it in the wrong place. I should be putting this in state here. And then I'll also have a void function. I'll just say set index. I'm not going to be too pedantic. Set index, and this is going to take an index, and what this is going to do is set state, and it's going to set screen index equal to index. I think that's what we were doing last time. Yeah, that's fine. So that's the same. Okay, so now I need to pass these two variables to my bottom navbar. And to get to my bottom navbar, I need to go through my stopwatch screen. Are you guys already starting to see the problem? So I go down to my stopwatch screen, and here I'm going to have to say index, or screen index, is underscore, sorry, I can't type right now, and then callback, and I'll be more specific because I'm going through multiple through multiple screens. Set index callback to underscore set index, like that. And of course, this is giving me an error because they don't exist yet. But I know I'm going to use them, so I'm going to save that. And now I'm going to change my stateful widget, my stateless widget, to a stateful widget in stopwatch screen. And now here, I'm going to have a final int screen index and a final void, I forgot what I called it, screen index, no, set screen index, I think that was it. Set index callback, like that. And then control click here, generate constructor, and enter here, just for nice spacing. And now that I have this, I can give my bottom navigation bar an index of screen index and a set index, I think it was just callback here, of set index callback, like this. And this gives me an error because it's an undefined name, because I should be using widget.screenIndex. Remember that widget is going to give me access to the variables inside the stateful widget instead of where I am here, which is the actual state. And same here, widget.setIndex, and it's giving me an error because so this value can't be used. I did something dumb. Final void callback, final void function. Final function set index callback. We all make mistakes sometimes, but okay, now it works. And now that I have this in my stopwatch screen, I'm going to have to do the same in my timer screen. So to save some typing, I'm just going to copy paste actually all of this. And I'm also going to do the same for my nav bar. So my bottom navigation bar is now going to have a more complicated constructor. And I haven't converted to a stateful widget. For some reason, VS Code doesn't want to do this for me. It does that quite often, actually. So now this is working. And now I'm going to have to do the same thing in my option screen. Convert this to stateful. And copy these. Put this like this. And then copy this. Okay. So now it's going to work. We need to do the navigation, which is going to be done through main.dart and through the bottom nav bar. And I'm going to show you guys how to do that in the next video because I don't want to introduce two different topics at the same time. In this video, I'm simply trying to demonstrate the structure of the state, the way we have to do it to actually work correctly. And in fact, I've drawn a little diagram, but first let's quickly review what we've done so far. So in order for my bottom nav bar to be used in multiple screens, I had to change where that state was located because I couldn't store the state in bottom nav bar because it would just be overridden. So that would be kind of pointless. So initially I would want to move it up to my stopwatch screen or my timer screen or my option screen. However, again, these would have different states. So that means I have to move them up one extra level, which is home.dart, main.dart in fact. And now this is a mess. I think I mentioned to you guys before, personally, and I think most people agree, we want our main.dart to be my app, the main widget, to be as clean as possible. I want it to have my material app, my theme data, my navigation data, that kind of stuff. I do not want to have variables here, which I'm changing. This is not right. This doesn't seem right. What's even worse than this is when this changes, it's going to have to rebuild the entire material app. Remember that when the state changes, all of this is going to have to be rebuilt. That is ridiculous. The other thing I could do is keep my home screen, but literally the only thing my home screen will do is hold these two things. That's literally going to be it. And then I would return home screen, and then that would be the parent of all of these. Again, that's ridiculous. So here's my little diagram that I drew showing the direction that state moves. So I'm storing the states, which I need in my navbar states, in my app states. And from here it's being pushed to my app, and my app is sending it to stopwatch screen, timer screen, and option screen. I didn't draw the third one, but you understand what I mean. And from stopwatch screen, timer screen, and option screen, it goes to the stopwatch screen, timer screen, and option screen state, which again I didn't draw because just it's a lot of boxes. And then from the stopwatch screen states, it goes to the navbar and the other navbar on the timer screen. And then from here it goes to the navbar states in the stopwatch screen, and the navbar states in the timer screen, and the navbar states in the option screen. I mean, this is ridiculous. I only want to use these variables here and here and here. I want to use it in the bottom layer, but I had to climb up 1, 2, the one I didn't draw, 3, 4, 5. I had to climb up 5 different widgets. That's ridiculous. And what's more, now I had to make stopwatch screen, timer screen, and option screen stateful, which before they weren't. And of course, you could argue with me and say, well, Vidius, you were going to make your screens stateful when you completed them anyway. And yeah, you'd be correct, I was going to. But what if that wasn't the case? What if these screens would have been stateless otherwise? Well, now they're being rebuilt. Now I need them to store states, and these screens don't care about these variables. My stopwatch screen does not care what the index is. My stopwatch screen does not care what the callback is. So why am I storing this? Why do I have set index callback inside my stopwatch screen when it does not care about it at all? It's simply so it can pass it along. I mean, that's ridiculous. I don't know if you guys ever played that game, Chinese Whispers, when you were children, or I think different countries have different names for it. But essentially what happens is a group of children sit around in a circle, and one of them says something and whispers it to the next child, and the next child whispers it to the next child, and they go around in a circle to show how easy it is to misunderstand what that thing is, because by the time whatever phrase or word goes around in the circle, it's always been completely changed, sometimes on purpose, but oftentimes just by accident because people misunderstand. And we're going to get to the same issue here, because now my stopwatch screen is handling this data when it doesn't care about it. It just has more room for errors. What if I accidentally change it? And you might say, well, Ovidius, you shouldn't be accidentally changing it. Yes, I shouldn't be. But what if my stopwatch screen needs a different index? And, I purposely called it screen index so it's more clear what it was. But what if I just called it index? And then I need some different index for something else, and I modify that and accidentally end up modifying this. Remember, initially in my bottom navbar, I just called the function callback. Well, a callback can be any function. So, because I've done this before, I know the kind of pitfalls I can get into. I renamed it to set index callback, even though here it's set index, here it's callback, but between these intermediary screens, I had to change it to set index callback. What if I didn't know that? What if I just used callback because, that's what I'm using in bottom navbar, why should I overcomplicate things? Well, now it's very, very conceivable to think I have a second callback inside my stopwatch screen. This is a very common situation. So then I could be accidentally using it in the wrong place, or overriding it, or doing God knows what, and just breaking my app. And more than that is the performance issue I have as well. So now all of these screens need to be rebuilt because their state is changing. And that doesn't seem right to me. Why am I doing that? Well, obviously it's not right. But okay, that was enough of a rant from myself. In the next video, we're going to take a quick look at navigation. Again, I don't want to have two separate ideas in the same video. And then after we look at navigation, we'll actually solve this issue, this state issue. And we're going to do it in a few different ways. And yeah, I think it's going to be great. I hope you guys are looking forward to it. I am as well. But in the meantime, myself, Ovidius, I'm out.